Hello everyone, welcome to Nomad discussion today. My name is Sue. I'll be your host slash moderator slash participant today. Today we're gonna talk about climate change and how it will impact the future of tea. And I prepared PowerPoint for us to go through, so I'll share it real quick. Actually, let me check whether this live people can see it. Okay, it's on live on Facebook. Before we officially get started, I'll just talk about the Nomad Festival. So Nomad Festival started when the pandemic started last year. I was finding out that all the tea events were canceling because of the condition. And then we started this virtual tea festival where people can get connected, engage, and uplift the diverse tea communities around the world. Recently, been renovating the website. So for the newcomer, now you get to see what Nomad Tea Festival feels like, and then for people who are familiar with Nomad Tea Festival, they can see like the website has been renovating and can go through different sections. Okay. Stop sharing this. Participant. So now you should be able to see the PowerPoint. Let me check on Facebook. Today's agenda before housekeeping, we already talked about what is Nomad Tea Festival, and which I'm also curious which country you are joining from. I'm joining from Melbourne, so right now it's around 8 p.m. But depends on where you live. It can be morning, afternoon, and we've had 59 countries. We've had people from 59 different countries. So if we are having someone from different country that we haven't been before, I could add on the website. And I'm also curious which tea you are currently drinking right now. I brewed Japanese green tea. That's single origin, single cultivar, Okumidori Kamairicha. So this from Horiguchi Tea Farm. And we're gonna talk about Wakoe no Horiguchi Tea Farm at the end of the discussion. And during the discussion, we're going to talk about what inspired this discussion, this event. And first topic's gonna be climate change, and then second topic's gonna be technologies. Because while I was researching climate change, it kind of got depressed. So I had to look the other way through to breathe better, which was technologies. And then I think we will have more sense when we go through. Uh, how this event was created. So a couple weeks ago, let me check. I'm looking through Facebook and it's not showing the full screen. So let me work on this. Full screen. I think now it should see the full screen. So a couple weeks ago, I met with a friend and we're talking about life and having tea picnics. Actually, this was the second one, but the topic came out in the first one. Then we talked about climate change and how we should enjoy fresh tea leaves because we weren't sure how many more years left to enjoy the leaves, fresh tea leaves. And then it inspired me to look through, research more about the topic because I kind of had sense, but I didn't really know more details compared to my past self. So created this event which helped me to research more about the topic. So we're gonna do this. We are here to encourage an open discussion and learning based on facts and scientific resources. And if anyone's already prepared and something eager to say, you can join on the screen as well. And then I'll pop this link on Facebook and YouTube. Join on screen. Okay. Now I'll share it again. So we're going to do this with respect. I was expecting more people to join for the discussion, but if it's gonna be myself or a few people, we can just study and then keep going. So people, we're gonna do this with respect because everyone have different perspective and cultural and different thoughts. So for some people, the topic climate change can be alarming and concern, but for others, it can be like nothing. Like for some people, they might think it's not true. So we're gonna go through which type you are. So which type are you? First one is alarmed. Second one is concerned, cautious, disengaged, doubtful, dismissive. Alarmed person is, I think global warming is happening, human caused, an urgent threat. I strongly support climate policies. Most, however, do not know what they or others can do to solve the problems. The concerned person is the human-caused global warming is happening. It's a serious threat and support climate policies. However, they tend to believe that climate impacts are still distant in time and space. Climate change remains a lower priority issue. Cautious group have not yet made up their minds. Is global warming happening? Is it human caused? Is it serious? Disengaged group knows little about global warming. They rarely or never hear about it in the media. Doubtful group is do not think global warming is happening or they believe it is just a natural cycle. They do not think much about the issue or consider it as a serious risk. Dismissive group believe global warming is not happening, human caused, or a threat, and most endorse conspiracy theories. So these are the groups, the results in America. So if you see the chart, in 2015 there were top two groups were cautious and concerned, but 2020 now the group have moved towards alarmed and concerned. And for me, now I'm alarmed, but before it was more like a cautious and concerned. So just like how this chart is showing, I was once in the cautious and concerned group, but now I'm in the alarmed group. So what is climate change? Climate change refers to long-term shift in temperatures and weather patterns, but since the 1800s, that's where industrial era started, and human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. Greenhouse gas concentrations are at their highest level in 2 million years. The Earth is now about 1.1 Celsius, but I think it depends on source. It kind of between 1.1 and 1.3. But I got this source from the United Nations, so I put this one. And it was in late 1800s. The last decades between 2011 and 2020 was the warmest on record. So what? Like for some people, it could be like, okay, the temperature is rising, so what? We can just turn on air conditioner. But the planet doesn't work that way. It's a whole ecosystem, biodiversity. So if the temperature goes up, it kind of messes up the whole cycle, and then we get like disaster, and then eventually it disrupts the whole cycle. So the consequences of climate change include like intense droughts, which impact humongously the agricultural sector, including tea farming, and water scarcity and severe fires like bushfires and rising sea level that can cause countries and buildings go underwater, flooding, melting polar ice, catastrophic storms, and declining biodiversity. Droughts can be deadly. In general, the drought means a loss of quality from damage to the spring harvest when the plant nutrients are at their richest and freshest. But because of the drought, due to a drought, it's gonna like that period, peak period for tea to be tasty and nutritious. In the short term, the price can go up because of the supply and demand. However, in the long term, it loses it and then loses quality and then it's gonna go down. So the examples are not from the like poor example, but in general about drought. Taiwan, I found this article that came out this month. And then Taiwan has been having had like significant drought. And then the article talked about how it impacted and then how farmers are trying to adjust, but regulators and then farmer, the whole thing, it's not certain yet. The climate change caused drought, according to them. However, they said we can only say the trends of continuous droughts will increase, which means the drought's gonna happen. And estimated crops and left Taiwan's tea farmers scrambling to adapt to the extreme weather changes because unless you have like a good technology and preparation system, it's gonna be hard to adapt because it doesn't work like pattern and then it's kind of new. So we're kind of having adjustment period. Extreme weather brings pests and then those pests attack young buds, which lowers the yield, production level. And I didn't know, but according to the farmer, they pests love the dry and the heat, and said, I think according to the person in the article, they've been doing experimenting in Taoyuan in northern Taiwan. Kenya, some tea growers in Kenya are shifting to produce other crops instead of tea because of the continuous drought, and it's predicting that it's gonna continue. So tea farmers are switching crops that can grow better in hotter temperature and more resistant to the harsh weather. So rising temperatures, floods, and droughts pose a threat to tea plantation. And I use the quote, we're not getting as much as rain as we used to. So before Kenya, the cropping period was 4 times a month. So they've been picking after 7 days. But now, that's already incredible. But now the yield has cut down in half. So the farmer in the article switched to grow pineapple instead of tea because now he's only getting half of what he used to get. So he changed it, and I think I haven't found stats or articles, or really need to see the trends, how the farmers are adjusting it. India had a tough time last year, and then also having tough time this year. So extremely weather caused crop deficit. So between January to May, it chopped down around 40% compared to 2019. Because of last year already had a deficit around 75 mil kilograms. So the stat didn't compare it to last year, compare it to 2019. And the farmer said, "We do not remember facing such a prolonged drought in the past 30 years." And Sri Lanka has been struggling the drought, but mostly Sri Lanka, the new thing is the country is switching, the regulation is enforcing organic farming. So on top of climate change and challenges, now they have this organic agriculture challenges. So drop it dropped the production level, and the Planter Association of Ceylon forecast a 40% drop in production in 2021 from a 4 month drought. In China, Hunnan's known for out of like last 60 years. In the article is that 50 it had 50 droughts, and it's also causing production level to drop. So compare like one smallholder reported the impact on its family operation. The reduction is like almost half. So it's like from 600 to 360 kilograms on leaf. So for farmers, fixed costs remain. However, the harvesting is in half, so the margins got shrunk, which cause uh, which cause hardship for farmers to grow tea and continue growing tea. And how many more years left? So the Earth's temperatures keep increasing, and the countries had meetings and say they would lower carbon emissions, but it hasn't been looking great. So it can be used up within 8 years. That's not that far. But it depends on how we react, like how we prepare, like how like world leaders mandate and then how people follow it. So I'm not really sure how it will go because so far I've been just living the same similar ways unless like I mean there are times that I try to lower plastic use and not to use too much energy, but for individual that's very little. So like a whole industrial level and country level, I'm curious to see how it will go. And I see people just typing on the Facebook because I don't want to just talk myself. I want to discuss. Is anyone want to be on the screen? Does anyone want to join the discussion? Oh, I think the link makes it hard. Let me retype it. Let me stop share and then just share the link to join. Let's see whether this works. Because I'm not here to give a lecture. I want to discuss with you, with the tea drinkers. Let me. I prepared these slides so the discussion doesn't go all over the place. But now I kind of feel like I'm just talking to myself. So according to the scientists and then people, professionals, 1.5 Celsius temperature rising is like the deadline. Once it goes over, the Earth loses its own power to recover. So once it hits it, it's gonna get worse and worse, more speedy. It's gonna get worse faster. So 1.5 Celsius is the limit that we don't want to go over, but it's already 1.1, some says 1.3, so we are very close. So unless the world begins to rapidly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the 1.5 Celsius goal of the Paris Agreement will slip out of reach, according to the latest UN Environment Program emissions cap report. This one's already. This one's we already talked about. Oh, drugs can be deadly. And I wondered whether the pandemic helped reduce the carbon emissions because people don't travel, people are in lockdown. Actually, there were moments it kind of got lowered, but now it's like back. So it didn't help that much. So imagine how much more effort we need to put together to cut down carbon emission. That's when I was thought, oh, it's not gonna happen with the own individual's effort unless it's like regulated and mandated. So this one, so by 1 degree it goes up. There's a kind of like list summarized what's gonna happen, and I pull out this information from the book's six degrees. What's the author name? And then report from IPCC 6 degree. Marcolina's 6 degree. It's a book that came out 2007, but has been reading. Mm, I actually haven't finished it. It's a thorough book to understand what's gonna happen by degree. 2 degree, greenhouse gases are beginning to alter the oceans, which is already happening with the 1.1 degree too. They were gonna have more heat waves and glacier melt rates will double. And Mediterranean countries will become drier and hotter with significant water shortages. Sea level rise may affect the homes and millions of people around the world. Yeah, it's gonna affect. And monsoons would increase in India and Bangladesh, leading to mass migration of its population. Crop production, it's gonna impact crop production. Some countries will benefit, but most of countries will not benefit. So most of Africa will suffer loss of production, and international food price stability will have to be upgraded to prevent widespread starvation. Because right now populations are increasing, but the crop level, because of the climate cuts down, then we have this gap to feed people. And if it's not, I don't know how they're gonna adjust on food price to prevent widespread starvation. But even the book says, and then professional scientists say, a scientist? Maybe not scientist, but the professional in the field says you might need to have agreement. 3 degree. There are more lists, but I just put down couple to understand how it's gonna impact our future. Africa will be split between the north, which you will see. So north gonna have like rainfall, and south part gonna be drier. Then UK, United Kingdom can expect drier winters. Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, East Peru, and Bolivia, life will become increasingly difficult due to wind. It's gonna cause like intense air pollution. So it says the smoke will blood out the sun. And it's gonna cause people hard to breathe and air pollution. And drought will be permanent in the subtropics and Central America. Australia will become the world's driest nation, which you can say that's gonna cause more bushfires and more challenges. Some northern regions will benefit from longer growing seasons like Norway and Finland, but that's not gonna be sufficient to cover the loss of production in other countries. And many plant species will become extinct because they are not gonna be able to adapt the environment. And the picture is Mumbai, India. So left is current, right is underwater at 3 Celsius. Because two increasing temperature by 2 more degree Celsius will make the lives of people changed. And the 4 degree collapse of civilization leading to conflict worldwide. Bangladesh loses over 30% of its land area. And Mumbai, Shanghai, Boston, New York, London, Venice we overwhelmed. But now scientists are finding that it's not gonna it can like it's like between 3 and 4 degree. So what they predicted before is actually or more generous. So at the moment it like since it's happening and then now 2021 is close compared to like a 2007 2021 we've seen a lot and then we have more data. So now they say like between 3 and 4 degree these cities can be overwhelmed or disappear. And before like 3 and 4 degrees, like small islands like Fiji, Solomon Islands, those islands will go underwater. So you can imagine the refugees, migrations moving to other places, losing homes. It's disastrous. And there will be international decline in agricultural production due to reduced river and then desertification and water scarce of water. 5 Celsius, the planet as we know it becomes unrecognizable. So no ice, no rainforest, rising sea level cause mass, how do I say this? Inundations for island, totally altering the geography of the planet. Mm, humans will herd into shrinking habitable areas, drought, floods. So this like a drought, floods, storms keep happening, but the strength will go up as the temperature goes up. And the 6 degree is dystopia. Like the human species may survive at 6 degree temperature rise, but we are not sure. So like while I'm researching this topic, I kind of felt sad and depressed. So I was wondering like because I'm not a lawmaker, I don't have power. I wondered like is there a hope for humanity? Like what can we do? And then that's where technologies kicked in. This video is all about smart farming, and as one of the example, we'll be able to see tea farm.
日本は米に関しての思い入れが非常に強いと。食文化の中の常に中心的役割を担っているのがお米だと。
Tomei City in Miyagi Prefecture is one of Japan's major rice-growing regions, and for more than 20 years, it has been producing high-quality rice in an elaborated and environmentally friendly manner, using fewer agricultural chemicals. However, in recent years, the aging of the population and the shortage of labor have become issues. Now, the region is working to introduce drones to maintain the production.
一番はその農薬散布に使う水、そこが今まで100だったのがドローンを使うことによって1で済むっていうのはとても労力の削減には役立ちました。一番最適な方法で最適なタイミングで散布できるようになったっていうのがこのドローンの導入して良かったところだと思ってます。
Kagoshima Prefecture has long been one of Japan's leading tea-producing areas. In recent years, however, domestic consumption of tea has stagnated, while overseas demand for high-quality tea has increased. In order to meet this demand, local tea farms are using technology to improve the quality of their tea by making it safer and more reliable, without relying on agricultural chemicals.
もともと減農薬の取り組みから始まった経緯がありますけど、茶畑で台風の後に虫がいなくなったっていうのをヒントにして、うちの社長、父親が、ハリケーンキングっていう風と水で害虫を吹き飛ばすっていうような機械を作って、茶の害虫防除に取り組んでいます。
長らくここはリンゴの産地、それから生殖用のブドウの産地ではありました。その中、やはりその高齢化後継者不足ということで、農地が放棄されているところも目立つようになってきました。
The vineyard was a way to utilize the farmland to revitalize this village, which was suffering from depopulation. Enologists trained in advanced wine countries have transformed the land into vineyards that produce high-quality wine, and are actively introducing technology and collecting data to improve cultivation methods, which helps to steadily establish a foothold for Japanese wine on the world stage.
高山村内にいくつか気象観測器設置しております。まずは環境、自分たちがブドウ栽培している環境を知ろうよというところから、環境、気温とか湿度から 病害虫のリスクっていうのも、アルゴリズムの中で分かってきていますんで、この地でも長くワイン産地として歩んでいく上では、観測のデータを残しておかなければいけないだろうと。
減農薬、減化学肥料の環境保全米を一番のブランドとして推進してきております。胸を張って自信持って提供できるブランドのお米でございますので、海外の方にも美味しく食べていただきたいと思います。
この地元で作られているものは、特にその海外に向けてお茶の産地だっていう産地ブランドを作ることができればっていうふうに思ってます。
自信を持って進められる日本産のワイン、そういうふうに成長していきたいなというふうに思ってます。
So there are challenges addressed, but there are also ways that we can cope with climate change and ways to figure out a better way to sustain the tea industry. And I wanted to discuss these matters, but no one's coming on the screen. So I'm like kind of here discussing it myself. What do you think? Do you think the future is optimistic or pessimistic? Or whether it matters? Well, I can totally say the tea industry is gonna be able to, it should consider adapting these technologies. Otherwise, I'm not really sure how they are gonna be able to harvest and further the farming. Because if let's say the Earth's gonna rise by like 3 degrees, that means it's gonna have higher sea levels. That's gonna affect thousands and millions of people surviving for food, because there's gonna be this gap. While I was saying, I was reading the comment, so I forgot what I was saying. Kim said, tricky, as the demand increases, it certainly will have the impact on the quality and how the farmers will choose to farm. Susan saying, I'm on mobile in car. Thanks. Thank you, Susan, for listening. Thank you, Kim, for being here. It's hard to foresee the future, because I mean, it really depends on how the world's gonna work together, right? Because it's kind of up to how we handle the carbon emission. If we continue this way, it's gonna go to dystopia mode. It's gonna be disastrous. And the country's gonna crop what actually feeds people, like rice, corn, over tea. But if we are able to manage carbon emissions, that means we kind of have more time to heal the planet Earth. Then we have more opportunity to enjoy fresh leaves. So it's in that range. Like it can till it's hard to imagine, it's hard to believe, but if we uses all the carbon emission budget because we don't do anything, it can happen as early as within 8 years, or it can happen like 2100. So the range is huge. But if I live my lifetime, if let's say if I live, I hope it doesn't, but if let's say I live like 100 years old, that means I will get to see either within 8 years or within 80 years, because the 80 years from today is gonna be 2100. Is that even how I pronounce 2100? So it's kind of hard to imagine. But I didn't want to stay pessimistic, so I was looking through technologies. Kim said, every time I'm leaning more towards the shop locally concept, which includes buying nationally produced tea. Unfortunately, our desire to try expensive and known teas make us buy from far away. True. But there is still way to cut down supply chains, but that's another topic. I mean, like even flights, this is another topic for energy which I'm not knowledgeable. If we invent something that can cut down carbon emission that doesn't destroy the earth, we could still enjoy tea from far away without causing too much trouble. Oh, Luisa's here.
Hi.
Hi, Luisa.
Hi. I
Thanks
couldn't
for
miss you. You organize
pardon.
always you always organize event, so I couldn't miss you. Just it's a bit late for me, but I see the last part, so I'll let you continue.
Thank you
I hope
for joining me. I was expecting to discuss this topic, but then I was like doing a presentation and I was discussing it myself. Thanks for jumping in.
I think because the link is just underneath, most of the guests maybe they just stop to reading the description. What I did during the first well, it was just 15 minutes ago when I joined. But then when you talk about the topic to share discussion, and then I saw that was a link underneath. So yeah.
Mm.
Maybe because of this. So people, please just check below underneath so you can enjoy that a discussion that it will be very interesting.
Yeah, right?
Mm.
Because I kind of expected more people to say it because I'm not knowledgeable about this topic. That's why I prepared the slides. I was like researching it because if I'm like normal, like I could just speak and then go through smoothly. But this is so new to me, and then I kind of glad I looked into it because now I know what's coming, which is kind of scary, but I try not to get scared.
Halloween.
What do you think? Do you think you will be able to enjoy fresh tea leaves. For how many more years?
Well, it's the same question as wines. And the last part of the introduction, the video, was very about Japan, was clearly about what's going on now, even in Taiwan, in Japan, with the tea research in Kenya, that they are experimenting with a new cultivar, with a way to adapt to climate changes. And for the wines, it's the same. We are observing now lots of grapes that are not the traditional grapes, even in Italy, that is my country. We, especially in the north, they are introducing grapes that, if I just tell the names, most are Saigon. They're like EN75. These names, not like Chardonnay, very scientific name. And if I say to my grandma, she would say, "Oh, are you sure that is a grape? Are you sure is?" They're very particular clones. But they're dealing well with the climate changes. And the question is the adaptation, because we saw, for example, how long it takes one cultivar, 49 years, to develop properly. We see,
Right.
so that means for us that we are get used to a certain taste of tea to be asked because the climate change is something that is happening. There is
Yeah.
no way to have idyllic prospect like I would like everything will be the same. I would like to taste. We are not tasting the same tea. The Tang Dynasty, the people taste. We are not tasting the same tea. The Japanese in 1910 were tasting actually, because even now we can recreate some of like Anji Bacha that was rediscovered, but at the same time of course they are different because the environment is different now. So even now we are not tasting the same tea in the past. So tea is going to be no, tea cannot disappear. It's grown with the human history. It's a millennium plant. It's very strong plant. But climate changes will ask us to change our perspective of the world. What we get used to enjoy today will be different to what we will enjoy tomorrow. So yes, it will not disappear, but it will be very different for sure.
Oh, okay. For me, I think it's gonna disappear if we don't take care of the planet.
Oh my. That means there will be a revolution because tea, wines, rice, they are in the last part of the video. Actually, they are three essential elements that I have at home. My neighbor have at home. My housemates, all the people have wine, rice, no, and tea. How can we live without these elements? How
Yeah.
can we? So
I added the last part because I felt so depressed with how climate change can disrupt the planet and then make tea go extinct. Not just tea, it can make people, animals, vegetables, plants go extinct if we don't take care of it. That's what's gonna happen if the temperature rises. That's what I showed before the video. I went through the like slides. So right now the planet temperature raised by 1.1 Celsius since 1800, like industrial era, but 1.5 is the like tipping point. If we go over it, according to scientists, the Earth loses its ability to recover as own. Like how rivers they heal them itself. But if the temperature hits the 1.5 Celsius, then it kind of loses it and then becomes like sick, and then like 2 point countries, like the sea level goes up 3 degrees, more problem, droughts, bushfires, floods, storms, like it gets intensified, and 4 degrees more, and then no tea, no humans, no animals. But they said like 6 degrees, humans may survive, but they are not sure. Scientists are not sure.
For example, here in UK, I can say that we can start from very, very little things at home to avoid this. For example, because I can feel the sensibility you just made about this problem. That if, for example, in the past, like during Roman times, so we're talking about 2,000 years ago, for example, wines was cultivated easily here in UK. That means the climate was definitely warmer. That means the temperature was warmer. Then we have microglaciations. But the problem is that if during the history, the human history, this warm global temperature and then colder again, and then warm and then colder, was in some way, the nature was able to heal by itself, to rescue back the situation by itself. The
Yeah.
problem is that with what now we are emitting, with the emissions, with our behavior, we are really accelerate this process, and the fluctuation is crazy. So
Yeah.
not like warm and cold, warm and cold. It's just crazy. So we are not able to expect a really effect to control the consequences in the global changing. We are not able to stop it until we not stop some practices, some, for example, in this way, talking about tea, the pest control without pesticides. Now in Japan, as we see during a tea marathon, is more sensible, diffused. Small producer put the slip up and try to deal with the pests in a different way than in the past, just spraying chemicals. And now they're trying lots of different solutions.
Yeah.
In UK, I noticed, for example, that most of the people doesn't care. Really, they do not care. They try to, for example, even for the small little things like the recycle, they do not care. And
Yeah.
yeah, and that is the base is when they slowly find that some products are different, some, and that's they start to care. So the challenge is this.
Once they see, oh, this is happening, then they might care. But I'm thinking this is where the country and regulation and enforcement needs to get involved. Otherwise, people are not gonna do it on their own.
Yeah,
Yeah. If
the government is doing.
if we just rely on people to take care of the planet, I don't think it's gonna make a significant difference because we've been just living that way. So, and we've seen like how it expedited carbon emission past 10 years. So, I mean, once the world leader sees the importance of taking care of a planet and then do something and then let people to follow it, then maybe, but then just rely on someone to do it better, I don't think it's gonna work.
It depends of the different zone, but I have now I've made some researches about it's like 7% after the government extends programs and give the recycled bins, so give everything for the easy to do it, for example, or not just recycle. There are a lots of little things, like for example the use of electricity to moderate, climate changes, the use of the cars, so improve the public transportation, like 7-8%. of the population. That is still a good percentage. In some places, it's even 3%. So it's we not reach the half. We not reach 50% of the population on the long term. After 1-2 months, after 1 years, they're able to keep going with the program.
Yeah, it's curious to see how it's gonna unfold. I'm curious to see. Kim said, I fear we'll be seeing more chemicals being used in the farming. We will be seeing more chemicals being used in the farming.
Because they're changing the diseases. The bacteria, the viruses are just changing. So they are, of course, then, for example, for even for the tea, the insects we are dealing now are stronger than the ones we have 100 years ago, because they, of course, they developing immune systems against the classical pesticides. So we need to use stronger pesticides to keep it. And even, for example, the viruses, that can kill the plants. Yes, about the basic question, if there is a real TikTok for tea that's going to disappear. It on the long term, not tomorrow, not in 50 years, but if it's more a question about also the quality of the soils, how what we live on the ambient, the quality of the air. If it's going to be oversaturated or chemicals that can they're not effect on insects. It's oversaturated of well, all the residues from industry production. Well, of course, it's not safe to drink it. Definitely, we are going to have it in UK more than now.
And more chemicals and more GM, like genetic modification, to adapt different environment better.
Yeah. It can be this a solution, genetic modification.
It can be, it cannot be.
It can be a solution. Can it be a solution?
It can be a solution.
Rely on genetic, on science.
Yeah. But I would love to prevent our current planet so we don't have to rely on genetic modification too much, because the tea trees, it's been coming down. I would like to perceive and then keep it if possible.
So also there are the prices. Yeah.
Pardon?
No, you say that these people.
But if it comes to the point that the current natural trees cannot survive or resist the challenges, then we might need to rely on modification.
And that will involve which kind of industry, CTC or whole leaf primarily?
Genetically modification. It's just it's about the trees, so it can be either whole or CTC, because it's the leaves that they are modifying it. It's the tree.
Okay, because for example, it's very expensive to plant the new cultivation for wines. If, for example, I'm a wine producer, my Chardonnay plant, it has a very less expensive cost than a highly modified, genetic modified plants. So about the wines, for example, and it's very easy to say following the tea. The ability to buy this new cultivar able to resist the climate changes, insect attacks created in laboratory, they are not for all the pockets. They are quite expensive.
Yeah.
So the little artisans that are producing wine or tea in old method, the family business, they can really struggle to have easily access to these new plants, new genetic clones able to resist climate changes. So we'll see maybe that large company will take over
Yeah.
the industry. That can be.
Well, how do you feel? How do you feel about genetically modified plant? That's
Actually,
created.
if we consider the genetic modification of the plants, there is nothing that bad if we consider that even nature every day modify itself, no? Adapting to different environments. And of course, for genetic modification, as we say, 49 years for the Ruby 18, for example, were needed.
Yeah.
That means even when we develop a new cultivar in a laboratory, we need time and test, over test, ultra test. In the end, the laboratory, the research can provide us with a plant that we are sure once we plant it, it will resist and not die or transmit new diseases or new genetic problems to the next generation, the next clones. It will be able to resist. So if when the science is for a project like the Tino is good. We have, for example, in a colleague, Martens, is studying about the modification plants, and even in the agricultural, for example, the pasta, the rice that we taste today is made with the modified grain selected in the 80s. I'm talking about Italy, my country. In the 80s in the 70s for the market to produce a lot of pasta for during the important economic boom we have in the 80s. And they are, of course, not the grain that my grandparents have in their farm. So about the genetic modification, and it's something that we discover only if we just have a little of interest, research. So the pasta that I have is not actually like all a fairy tale and to be grown in the farmland, and then it's selected for them. So hello, welcome.
Hi,
Hello.
Kyle.
Hey, Sue.
Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I just got back from Kumamoto. We had a black tea summit in Kumamoto, so had to drive all the way back to Kagoshima.
How did it go? What's Black Tea Summit?
It's a summit for Japanese black tea, and it's hosted once a year in Kumamoto. So.
Oh, Luisa and I were talking about how we feel about genetically modified, because we were talking about like in order to make tea to adapt better or resist climate change better, like we talked about like genetically modified tea plant, and then I saw you hopping in, so I pull it in.
Yeah. So for us at least, in Kagoshima we have a university that's dedicated to tea, and so all of the tea plants, the new tea plants that we get, it's all it's not genetically modified. It's just hybrids, so mixing and matching of different types of teas. The most common in Japan is Yabukita, and it's common because it's very strong and it grows a lot of tea. But down here in Kagoshima, we have an earlier spring and less frost, so we can just do all sorts of different kinds of teas. they might not grow as much as Yabukita, but oftentimes better color or better taste, and it's all natural. So I think that the future is pretty bright for having non-GMO tea trees that can survive.
Does it make like a huge difference whether it's non-GMO or GMO? I mean, as a consumer, I prefer non-GMO because it feels like I'm eating or drinking something natural, and then that automatically connects to, okay, it's like healthier. So that's how I choose a product or a cafe or something. But
Right.
I'm not sure how it works with tea because I've heard many things about beans or corn, but not
Right.
much about tea.
So yeah, I think with GMO, I think it's with tea, even if you want to have GMO tea, the future is not that bright. GMO is more for like fruits and vegetables and stuff like that, where a
Oh, is
tea you're just growing the leaves. And so we already grow pesticide-free tea, so we don't need a tea tree that gets rid of a pest. In fact, we like the pests because we want to keep the ecosystem as healthy as possible. So
Yeah.
sometimes pests are not a bad thing. If we have pests, we invented a machine that basically makes a mini typhoon, and we'll run that over our fields. It's just water and wind only to get rid of all the pests. But we don't do it every year, only if the pests are really bad. So we try
Okay.
to, yeah.
I actually searched smart farming on YouTube,
Yeah.
and then I found the video. What was the source? Science,
Business Insider.
maybe.
I think
Oh,
so. The one you
Science,
sent.
Science Insider. Is it related to Business Insider?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, how Japan is reshaping its agriculture. That came up the first, and then I clicked it. It talked about rice, tea, and wine, and the tea example was yours.
Yes, yep, that's right.
Yeah. Do
Yeah,
you
so
think pest is increasing? Be- Does the I mean, when I researched it, like, but it was in Taiwan. It said when the temperature goes up, pest increases. So I don't know. That's the case of
I
Kagoshima.
think that really, yeah, that's true. That's true. And it really depends on the growing zone that you're in. So we're in a 9B growing zone, and there's certain the pests are inevitable, and when it's hotter, they do come out more. But we use something called IPM, which is called Integrated Pest Management, and what that
No.
basically is having natural bugs eat bugs. So like ladybugs is a great example. We like to have ladybugs in our fields, and those eat the pests rather than using pesticides.
I need to look into those whole technology. I wanted to combine together with climate change, but 1 month was not enough. Like my
Yeah.
brain, like, yeah.
I'll send you some links. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. Cause yeah, it's very interesting and it's hopeful. When I read about climate change, I kind of feel sad and depressed. But when I read about technology, I gain energy and hopes. So I want to learn more about what are some technology that can be applied to or that's already applied to tea industry.
Right. Yeah. So I was in the car, but earlier you said like with the different levels for me, I fall into the one that you called alarmed or alarmed, I think it was. But I don't consider myself alarmed. I'm so hopeful for the future. So, I mean, what you said about the people who are alarmed, that's how, of course, I think it's important to take care of climate change now, but I'm also very hopeful. I wouldn't call myself alarmed. I'd call myself hopeful. I think we can do this.
Yeah, I think they just categorize as alarm people who recognize, like knowing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but they categorized and labeled it as alarm. But those surveys were based on American demographics. That was the only thing that I could find it, but it was
Okay.
very interesting. Yeah,
I am American though, so I think that applies to me.
Did you do the survey?
I don't think so. No. Sorry.
Okay, but still applied. I'm
Yeah.
not American, but it still applied to me.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I can. Yeah, hopeful. I think staying in hopeful zones healthier, better.
It is. Yes. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Staying hopeful and staying active. So those are the
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah. That's
The
a
glass
good
is
lesson.
always half full, not half empty. Now
Ah,
when we
yes.
are hopeful, we always see a glass or a cup half full. But this, at the same time, as I think I said before, the problem with the weather changing are that we cannot control completely all the variation, and it's not changing in a gradual, in a way that can rescue back easily. Some consequences are really, really crazy, like and uncontrollable. We cannot control them. Like, for example, typhoons, all how the natural environment is, the soil quality, the quality of the rainfall, that is different pH. So,
Right.
yes, of course, always have a good optimistic perspective, not to be catastrophic, but at the same time, considering that we need just to realize that some taste or some habits we get are going to be not very easy to keep going on with. Like drinking, for example, a cup of tea, a special tea, it would be more difficult to have it every day than now because it would be more expensive. A clones, if I have to use the plants that is from a research station and not I can develop in my garden by myself, means that I have to spend a lot of money, and that means that I have to increase the price, the final price for the customer. So drinking tea, it will be quite. Of course, it's not going to disappear at all, but not as a daily drink like day. If you want to drink some tea, then from the CTC, it will maybe be a different perspective because big companies are behind the CTC industry.
Yeah, if we don't take care of the planet, it's gonna become a luxury, super luxury.
Right.
Especially enjoying fresh tea leaves. People are gonna fight over fresh tea leaves.
I hope not.
I hope not either. I have some fresh tea leaves.
Oh, nice.
I started to grow kaori. Sayama kaori? Kaori sayama?
Sai kaori?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my favorite cultivar.
It works better. It works well for, I mean, now I had some leaves. It's kind of look pitiful, but it's gonna be better.
Right.
I made like tempura, I cooked, experimenting like tea making, and now I have so much more respect. I mean, I had respect for tea farmers, but now I have much more because my tea didn't turn out tasty. Yeah, fresh leaves. Yeah, I agree. I hope people don't fight over fresh leaves. Hopefully, we will be able to manage carbon emission. Hopefully, the world leader just mandate something, and then people follow it, and then it will
Well,
go.
it's funny that you mentioned that because what our company does is you brought up the United Nations earlier, and there's something that the United Nations have called SDGs, which stands for
Yeah.
Sustainable Development Goals,
Mhm.
and you can apply them to almost any company and even on the individual level. And the UN basically says, hey, this is what we need to do, and they have a bunch of them, and it's just like, do as much as you can, you know, and then it kind
Yeah,
of sets you on the right path. So
but I was talking to Luisa before. I think if we just rely on people to do the right things or do better things, I don't think it's gonna work.
that's, I mean, like, yeah, the UN's basically doing what they can. It's like, hey, this is what you need to do. Here it is, right in front of you. Please do it. And I mean, there's people like us who are gonna do it, so we'll do our part. And yeah,
Because
I
the
think
individual, I mean, we matter, but the entire world and companies, industry who are actually producing ton of carbon emission, they have much more larger influence. So I mean, individual matters, but the overall, there's gotta be something. I mean, there are those agreements like I don't remember whether I remember correctly. Is it Paris Agreement? But there are those environmental sustainability agreements that countries try to achieve before 2013 or 2050. These plans, but it's not really. It's not really hitting the goals yet.
right. Yeah. Once companies, especially like agricultural companies, once you start losing money because the climate's changing, you have no other option than to do that. So our company, we already know, hey, this is coming. We need to. Well, we've been doing it for a long time, but uh, the other companies that we talk to around us, they're like, oh yeah, you're right. And so they're adapting some of the technologies that we use in our farms, and it's just spreading and spreading, and slowly but surely. I mean, if you look back 30 years ago, so many more companies are using these now, and it just kind of spreads from word of mouth. So over time, I think it'll get there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't know what to do. So once someone tells you, hey, this works, then okay, they try it and it works for them, and then they tell someone. So yeah.
For company wise or for individual or for both?
For both, I think. For example, like with our company, I'm sure you've seen pictures of green tea fields with like fans above them. So what those fans do is they in the frost. The important thing is frost kills tea leaves, and so those fans turn on at a certain temperature and blow warm air down onto the leaves, so frost doesn't form. And right now, you'll see less and less of those fans because what we do is we install sprinkler systems, and
Yeah.
the sprinklers have a sensor, and so they know when the temperature drops to that point, and they pop up out of the ground and start spraying water. And what that water does is it freezes the leaf with ice. And oddly enough, like ice doesn't hurt the tea leaf, but frost does, and frost can't form when there's ice on the tea leaf. So it's kind of interesting because that's one solution from taking away from the fans. That's all the fans did. But this also, what it does is if you have a drought, it gives you constant water, as well as it works as a pesticide and a fungicide for some reason. It just kind of
Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, just water, like the pests cannot like stay on the leaf, so they just leave and find somewhere else that they can grow. So
Is it just natural water or is it a water that has something?
it's just it's a natural water, but the technology part is that there's a sensor on it, so it only turns on. So we actually go out like in the 2 o'clock in the morning with flashlights in the fields, and it's so cold and we're getting so wet, but we have to make sure each one's working. And yeah, that's it's not very I don't know, it's kind of fun, but it's cold.
Yeah, dedication.
Yeah.
How often do you do it?
Well, they work automatically, but every single night. And so
Every single night you go out at 2
in the
a.m.
winter, in the winter, in the winter. In the summer, we don't have to do it. Only until about like February when the temperature starts getting warm again. So probably March or April is when they stop turning on because the temperature's risen. Spring comes.
It's
Is
like
it-
in Burgonia. In Burgonia, you work in this way for the wines. They spray water on the grapes for get the ice protectors, so natural
Oh,
protector
yeah.
natural. But
Cool.
what is interesting that you have in Japan a system for is a technology system to check the correct of your environment temperature for get it up and start to spray. So they use
Yeah.
the combination of technology and the natural ancestral system. That is what is advanced in Japan, and it will be a method spread around the world, I hope.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. It's simple too. So
because without using technology, I'm not sure how they are gonna be able to do it.
yeah, you need so much manpower. So the technology helps so much. Yeah. And it's hard to find someone who wants to wake up at 2 in the morning to go spray water on plants. So
Yeah, exactly. There's so much dedication. I don't know what else I can put it. There were times that I worked on an apple farm for how many weeks? 2 weeks? 3? It started at 6 a.m. That was already tough for me. And after that, I was like, oh my goodness, so much respect for farmers and people working in agricultural sector. Oh, winter 2 a.m. is so cold in
yeah,
Japan too.
yeah,
But what is interesting also in Japan, apart the use of technology combined with all the system, but also that young generation, because there was this marathon, and we covered several prefectures and talking with young farmers and all farmers. The new generation are collaborate with the tea research institutes, with the university. They want to know, they want to learn. There is like an hungriness for know the better technology, all the cultivar, particular like the particular plants or systems in order to just keep going and to deal with climate change in a more smart way than the classical or this or that. So that was impressed me is that young generation are where the like you, like in Vaconte, your company, you collaborate with the local uni, and so this this will to spread the knowledge in front of a serious problem like the weather change, because I know that, for example, the south of Japan was by typhoon this year, so there was a lot of floodings and lots, so that maybe are normal for for that area, but still were very very heavy. So that is interesting. Around the world is a system that must be exported.
yeah. I think we do tours of our fields and factories all year round, and when the university students come and take the tour and show interest, that's another reason that gives me hope instead of anxiety. Is I see these young people and they're seeing it, and they're smart, they're happy, they're encouraged. So that's one thing that gives me hope. Definitely is the university students and the new generations.
Are they from Pacific major or Pacific
So
related to tea, or how does it work? Any field?
most universities, they're agricultural universities already, and then it's just a program. Hey, do you guys want to go on this tour? And they say yes, and they come. So we can just get like a busload of university students from different agricultural universities.
And they're excited to learn more. And then,
Yeah.
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will be excited to do tour too.
Come on down. once the COVID lockdowns are done, you can do an internship if you want. We can have you work here for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Actually, the lockdown is going away.
Right. I think so. Seems
Yes.
like it.
No, I mean Melbourne. Like we had the world's longest
Oh.
lockdown.
Yeah,
And
I heard
then
you guys had a really bad one.
from this week, retails are opening. So now I get to shop. not online shop. Yeah, and people are like celebrating, partying, getting
Well,
our life back together, not just
be
inside
safe
the
though.
shop. Yeah.
Be safe. Yeah.
Oh, with
Yeah,
COVID, yes.
Right.
that's nice because you bring people in the fields, in the nature. Now, this lockdown, we have a different concept of work, home work. Instead of going to an office, lots of people still working at home, from home. And they work a lot of hours, um, 12, 14 hours, just because they work from home. And so
Yes.
they don't actually go out. They don't actually see the change. No, they're in a very protected environment, home. So if you ask people to please come in the field and touch manually the plants, have a life experience with with what's going on, it's easier to let them perspective how is important is taking care about the discussion we have today.
Mm.
Right.
Luisa, do you also grow tea or only grapes?
Well, it's better growing wines in Italy, in my
Yeah.
place. So growing tea would be like a camellia in the garden, but they cannot resist.
Do you
That is
know
only in a greenhouse.
do you know Luca and Erica in
Yeah,
Italy?
yeah,
They're
but
Are they far from you? Erica's working on growing tea in Italy.
yeah, they are the opposite side from my place, and my place is really cold. We have lots of and it even the acidity of the soil is not exactly perfect for tea cultivation. In Lucca is warmer, for example. Even if we are in the same latitude, it's warmer. It's uh, it's like, for example, when we go north in Sayama, in Saitama, and there are some places in Saitama that they are okay, interesting, very interesting for cultivating tea, and others that they are too cold for cultivating tea. So look, even in Switzerland, in Swiss, they cultivate tea, but it's a question of the soil. We can I would prefer to cultivate a specific grape for fruits that can then spread a different plant. I prefer to take the tea from okay, if I go in Italy from Lucca, now even in France, but also all experiments that happens in greenhouses because I was in Lucca and in a greenhouse.
Yeah.
That is very different than cultivated tea in open field.
Mm. Okay.
I'm going to the USA in February because we're working with a winery that also has a tea garden in Santa Rosa. It's called Paradise Ridge Winery, and the tea is called Wakamatsu tea, I believe. And yeah, there's someone that partners with us, and it's a real the I think like 200 years ago, someone from Japan brought tea seeds to California and started planting tea there. And
Wow.
now it's like a winery and tea. So we have a teanery here in Japan, and they're kind of doing the same thing. So
Oh.
excited to go see them in February.
They are making tea wine.
Tea and wine separately, but on the same place. So it's a winery that also grows tea.
For the tea wine, in a way, there is probably a vineyard, a garden, and they produce tea wine. It's
Yeah.
They don't. They
in
just
a way.
do. It's totally separate. So they grow wine and then they grow tea, and make wine and tea separately, but on the same place.
Okay. Seeing tea wine would be interesting too. I tried the tea wine from which company was it? But they used red wine with black tea. and chai base, and Chardonnay with chamomile. So it's not technically camellia sensitive, but it tasted good. I'm not much a wine drinker, but the concept was interesting, so I tried.
I think wine and tea are very similar, especially in the fact that each year it's going to be different. So the wine that you get in 2021 is going to be different than the wine in 2022, and same with the tea. The same tea that you get in 2021 will be different in 2022. They share a lot of similarities. It's really cool.
Yeah, but the difference is wine, it comes in a bottle. Tea, you get to brew, which the whole spectrum, like depends on how the person brews it. Like same leaves, it's like totally different taste and flavor and storage too.
Right.
Basically, the difference between wine and tea is that we can interact with the tea. So wine, okay, I can, for example, play with my wines using a different glass that will spread a different aroma, or serving at a different temperature that will enhance some characteristic upon other. But for tea, actually, it's like bartending, like create a cocktail. We actually decide if I use this temperature, I'm going to get this flavor. Like for example, when we use Gongfu for 12 time, with an oolong tea, each brew is really different in flavors. In wines, okay, can be characteristic more enhanced, but once I open one bottle at that temperature, it will be that bottle. With the tea, the same leaf can give me a different experience each time I change the parameter, depending on the guests I have. So if I know that they want a sweeter character, I'm going, of course, to lower the water temperature. If I know that, okay, so we can really play with the tea leaves. And but about the cultivation, apart the soil, that they are completely different for wine and tea. For example, tea needs lots of humidity. If you give the fog to a wine, you can produce sauterne, but you cannot produce a good wine. Wine doesn't like too much fog, too much humidity and rain. Definitely not. You need a drought. But still, yeah, they are very similar in the concept, in the way we can interact growing them. But it's not the case that in Japan you show us rice tea and wine at the same time. Talking about the discussion we had today.
Do you find is tea more sensitive compared to growing, what do you call, binary grape tree?
Well, they ask a specific task each one. Growing wine, growing tea. I never grown tea, so I don't know. I know the theory, but I don't know. Maybe from Vacan Tea you can help me about growing tea, the challenges you're facing, and the phases, the calendar you follow. For wines, for example, in a traditional way, you have a lunar calendar, and you have to follow that. That is easier to produce in a traditional way.
Yes.
So
lunar calendar in Korea, we also use lunar calendar as farming.
Yeah, because there are.
I would imagine growing grapes is much harder.
It's hard because I'm not sure. I don't know, so I asked.
It can be hard growing grapes.
I don't know either. I just imagine.
You have to. It's like carrying a garden. If you have a garden, you won't keep it in order. You have to care every day. Check it. Have a little stroll. I always say. And of course, it's easier if you're a small producer to have a little stroll. But it's of course, if there is a disease that is spreading in one plant, you cannot wait the next day. You have to interact immediately. And I remember my grandfather, and literally we have like midnight harvest, night harvest. literally about taking care every day. And when there is harvest, it's like tea. You cannot say, oh, okay, it's 7 hours in a field, too much, too many. No, you have to stay there until you finish. You have to finish and be fast. So there are very similar challenges. I know that there is an harvest in Japan, Ichibancha, you have to just trying to collect as much as possible because the next day they will do different. And for wines, the next day maybe it's going to be rain and destroy your harvest. So they face similar challenges. That means passions and care. Once we have them, we can develop a product that we know we have made with the best effort.
Yeah.
So the
Hey,
best
Sue,
effort is. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but my phone's about to die. I have to go.
It's all good.
All right. Thanks
Good to
for the
see you.
discussion.
Thanks for joining in. Bye.
Yep. All right. See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.
It was so interesting talking, really. And it's not going to be just a discussion left here. So I would like to ask you if you're going to publish an article to transfer this on a different, not just today, but something that will be have a progress for tomorrow.
Yes, I gonna leave this live as is so people can watch it. And I'm thinking to write an article, but I'm not sure when it's gonna be published. But it's an important topic for people to think about, and I'm pretty sure there will be much more knowledge of people who have been researching and have interest in this topic, and they can contribute. So, yep. And then today we talked about much more about climate change. Would love to extend this topic to technologies and how technologies can be applied to tea farming in the future or current. That would be interesting. Thank you for joining and happy on the screen so I don't talk to myself the entire time. Thank you, Luisa, for coming.
Thank you to all the. Thank you for hosting such event. It was very, very interesting.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is it afternoon for you? Night?
Sorry?
Is it afternoon for you? What time is it over there?
Oh, now it's just a very, very lazy morning. It's 11:15.
Okay,
So,
have a good day.
Yeah. Have a good evening, really, and I see you next event.
Yeah, thank you.
If we keep going, as we say, not just today, but every single day, it's like we say when we cultivate tea or wines, the taking care constantly will make a difference, even in the way we enjoy a daily life.
Yes.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Have a
Thanks
good day,
everyone joining in. Kim, Samuel, and Kyle, Suzanne, and all people joined in. Have a good day and drink delicious tea while you can. See you next time.